Hey, it's Ron from the Colorado Sound, and sitting with me, a lady that we were just talking about how we've known each other for a long time, been around each other, but haven't really known each other, haven't really hung out the way we did a couple of months ago and realized, hey, we should hang out more.
Yes.
Kind of a thing. Liz Barnez is here with us, and it's great. I'll take the fate of the new album bringing you in the studio and us getting a hang like this. I'll take it.
I love it.
I'll take it.
It's an excuse, but it's a good one.
I'll take it. The new album is called Wholehearted, and we'll get to that in a minute. But, you've been around the music scene in Colorado for a long time, and because we are the Colorado Sound, and we like to reflect what the sound of Colorado is, because you've been around this scene for a while, I'm going to ask you to kind of reflect on what you have seen in this scene, to use what you've seen in this music scene for the past 30 plus years that you've been around, and just sort of, talk to me about what you found in this music scene when you got here from New Orleans, where you grew up,
right,
and kind of what you've seen over the past 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And I know that's a big question. It could take an hour. But, just shine the light on your experience and your perspective on things.
I think I have a different perspective as a woman.
Oh, good point.
And so that was the late 80s when I got here. It was winter of 87, but I just call it 88 because – and I moved here en masse from New Orleans when the Subdudes moved here. So, and they were older than I am, but, they were definitely mentors and teachers. So when I got here – It's interesting. So the venues were different, and the way people played was different. But when I started playing, I was really one of the few women singer-songwriters in the Colorado area that was playing regularly with a band. And so, I was doing band things. I didn't do the singer-songwriter type show. I had a band. I wrote most of the songs for it or covered some songs. So just looking at it through that lens, which will narrow the focus, the difference between then and now is there are so many amazing women musicians, songwriters, like really kicking butt on their instruments and like really playing. Like I never imagined I would ever play. I was kind of the girl, and it was, and growing up in New Orleans, when I started playing music, I was the chick singer in the band. So it was definitely, the patriarchal music scene. So coming here, audiences were open to me and to, as a woman. So that's one of the main differences that I see. Like there are so many women leading bands, writing songs, playing great music, just getting out there and doing the thing. Yeah. And that really was a big change.
And that, it's interesting that you say that because I saw, it was John Magny who said that he noticed that women also kind of are leading the music scene, especially in northern Colorado, in Fort Collins, with, Greta, Danny, et cetera, et cetera. Pat, of course.
Right.
And all that support that comes from that.
Yeah, I just had a meeting this morning. My record release show is Sunday at the Armory, which is a bohemian venue. And I just had a meeting this morning with the talent buyer and the person who's the operations manager for the venues, just kind of talking about security and how we want everything to look, and which I appreciate. Both women. And we're talking about the production manager, who's a woman, and Greta, who's marketing director at Bohemian, but also started Foco MA. And, she's just one of the most huge-hearted people. And Peggy Lyle and Caitlin McQueen, who, all run all of the music things for Foco MA. And so for me, that's kind of the big difference that I notice. But the thing that has been consistent with the music scene, and especially northern Colorado, I used to play all over Colorado. There used to be more of a network. In my estimation, it was kind of a network. Like if you were playing at Linden's in Fort Collins, which I used to play all the time, you might be like doing 3 or 4 nights there. And then you'd go to the Tugboat in Steamboat Springs, and you'd go to the Mogul in Breckenridge. And so there was a circuit of playing all over where you could actually kind of like hone your band and your craft. It didn't make a bunch of money, but they put you up. And so I think that's kind of missing for maybe younger bands, like to have this network. Like once you're in one, you kind of are led to the other, and once you make the circuit, and the Little Bear and Evergreen was part of that. But, FOCO MA is kind of talking about that idea of creating more of a network again. So I loved hearing that.
I like hearing that.
Yes.
Because what that means is that there will be more opportunities for musicians here in the future.
Yeah.
For us, because one of the things I say when I speak at events that are related to this is, it's always the arts programs that get cut first,
right,
where the budget gets cut first.
Right.
And that support system of artists on their way up goes away.
Yeah.
And, FOCO MA is working against that. And so...
Right. Fort Collins Musicians Association. I just want to be sure to...
No, you're right. But I love it that here in this state, we are doing things to help ensure a musical future of this state and the world.
Right. And it's important. And it's important to, how do we get to... Part of the conversation is how do we get to people who love music and who might be, open-hearted and open-minded enough to go try to listen to something that they'd never heard before. So how, what's that part? What's the answer to that? How do we get people out? And for me, the answer is, all of the, I think Bohemian in Fort Collins has been a great model of all of these free shows, community shows like the Old Town Square shows where people can go hear and sample music they've never heard before. And then they can go and buy tickets to them, to see them at some other venue. So anyway, not that we're going to come up with answers here.
Well, but we might. That's what conversation leads us to.
Yes.
Well, let me begin, because the reason that you're here is your new album. The show this weekend is sold out at the Armory, but the new album called Wholehearted. Has it been 7 or 8 years since you?
Yes.
When was the last time you put out an album? No.
I think 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is it that got you to a place that you said, "Hey, I'm going to get around and put out another release here"? What was the evolution?
I like that question.
Of Liz Barnez that you said, because a year ago you didn't have new music, but now you do, or a new product.
Right.
Because that's what I should call it that.
Yes.
So what's different now? What happened that allowed you to have that CD that's in front of us?
It's kind of a long story. I mean, I accumulated the songs that I wrote the songs and okay, these are songs that I like and think they would work well on a record. So that's part of it. I actually started recording it in 2021. So that's when I recorded the first song, Battle Cry, which was long story, but I wrote that as part of a class through the music district in Fort Collins, the sync music class. Yep. And it was a result of a prompt, and I can't remember what the prompt was, but maybe the prompt was something like write a song that has a single word, encouraging exclamation. And so that was the only prompt. And so I wrote Battle Cry, which is all personal, but came from a prompt. So anyway, I liked it and then recorded it with Dave Beagle, and then we got started on a couple of other songs. So we kind of got started in 2021, and life got busy, and all kinds of things happened.
Yeah,
and,
I remember.
Yes.
Some things did.
Yes, and Dave Beagle, who produced and engineered, helped produced with me, and engineered at his studio in west of Loveland, fell off a cliff.
Right. I was going to ask you, how's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing great. And he, broke 17 bones, but his hands were fine. He's an amazing guitarist and his no head injuries. So there was a little time period in there, not that that's the excuse why we stopped, but there was the period of him recovering and healing and focusing on what he needed to focus on. And life, So then when we got back to it, I had a few more new songs, and it's like, okay, let's get those recorded. So it kind of just was, I didn't want to push the process of I have to get a record out by this date. And I felt like the timing was just right for, okay, I have a good group of 12 songs that I like. Let's record these. I get to play with amazing musicians on these songs, and they were available to record. So, so that's... so there's no real reason or strategy about releasing it now. It just kind of was ready now.
And what is the word, one of the things that I'm always impressed by with artists who put out an album, they have to put a name on it because that's going to, and that, like the internet, once you do it, you can't pull it back.
Yes.
You can't rename the album. And I wonder, Wholehearted, what does that mean to you that it became the name of the album?
I think the song, which is the title track called Wholehearted, is a very autobiographical song about me, but about a young girl, maybe teenager or woman in her 20s. Not that teenage girls are women. I just want to stress that.
Yeah, sure. I know.
Teenage girl, and then a woman in her 20s. And then me now, and it's the evolution of me coming to know and love and forgive and accept myself. So that's what the song Wholehearted taught me, because that's what came out, and I got to write it down and go, okay, I think this is what this is about. So it's me at 61 going, you know what, I'm fine and I like me.
I feel like I should say welcome to adulthood.
Exactly.
At this age.
Yeah, finally getting there.
Some people never get there.
Yeah.
Some people have it early.
Yes.
But some people never get there.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm getting there. And so that's why, and the songs all represent different time periods of that me, a younger me, or a me who had not yet forgiven herself or had not yet learned to love herself or and so then the me now who wrote Wholehearted was like, oh, okay, all of those are parts of you, and wasn't she sweet, and didn't she do her best, and
bless your heart.
Bless her heart. Yes. And here she is now and going, all right, I'm okay.
You talk about collecting these songs.
Yeah.
Not so much writing, but collecting these songs over a number of years. And the song How About You goes back a number of years, where you wrote it in November of 2016.
That is correct.
And has the song changed from that time period, from when you first wrote it, started to put it together, to getting it onto the album?
The song has not changed, but the meaning for me, it's one of those songs that just kind of dumped out after the election in November of 2016, and I was sad. And but I felt that even at that time, even though I saw division happening, and I saw it happening in my family, and that's mainly what inspired this, were family members, and I just thought, God, how can we get past this, and how can we get beyond this, and how can we all live to be better in the world and help each other, kind of was where it came from. Maybe. Yeah. It's hard to remember. But that's where the song came from. Like, how about you? Don't you want to be okay? And the answer being love. So it was a gentler sort of response to what happened all in that time period. And so singing it now, I'm I'm a little less hopeful, actually, that we can, as families, as communities, as a country, as a world, come together and realize that love really is the answer. I mean, it's all you need. Mm-hmm. That and dogs, but that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story. But I'm interested in how, when I first was listening to the song, I thought to myself, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
And at first, I heard the band song, The Weight.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
If you listen to it, you can kind of hear the weight in there. And then halfway through the song, I said, oh, no. This is Van Morrison's Crazy Love. And then at the end of the song, there's Van Morrison's Crazy Love.
Yes.
So how did you work? Like, did it start with that melody and then you went, oh, I'm just going to put Van's song at,
It happens
words.
with a bunch of songs for me, because I get really distracted even while playing my own songs. But so, like, as I was playing the song, I wrote it and it all came out. And I mean, I listened to Van Morrison growing up, and he's definitely an influence. And so the chord progression is definitely very Van-ish. And then I started on live shows when I was playing it. I started at the end, because I say love, 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 love. And then I started to sing love, love, crazy love, and the audience would sing along with it. and it's not quite the exact chords for that part of the song, but the verses are the same chord progression. Yeah. And I like to say, there are only 12 notes.
That's right. A friend of mine says the same thing.
We are going to be repeating them.
Yeah.
But I also remember seeing Mark Cohn, speaking of Van Morrison, and he was talking about at a concert, I can't remember where, but I love his music too. And he was sitting at the piano and he said, somebody asked me about writing songs and they said, how do you write songs? And he said, usually what I do, and this is what I tell them, usually what I do is I sit at the piano and I start playing this. And he was playing Tupelo Honey. And he said, so I start here, playing Tupelo Honey chords, and then it brings me to my song.
Takes it out of there.
So he started with Van.
We all can,
Yes.
It's easy to do. There were a couple of Beatles moments that I had in listening to the album, and they happen at the end of two songs. You talked about dogs.
Yes.
And at the end of Light Up,
yes,
there's all these dogs.
Yes.
So I want to ask you about whose dogs are those.
Yes.
But also after Over You by Birmingham, another old song of yours, that there's these sounds that happened that I went, that's like the Beatles just letting the tape run after they were done with the song.
Yeah.
And it just added something, a new fold, a new perspective, a new feel to the songs.
Oh, interesting.
And I wonder if that was quote unquote on purpose. I mean, it's on purpose because it's on the disc, you know? But was it on purpose that that the song continued even when the song ended in that way?
Well, it's on purpose that we kept those long fades on the record. For me, and Dave was willing to too, because there are a couple of songs that have really long fades. Actually, at Light Up, it went on much longer, and I'm like, okay, we can't have a 6-minute song, even though I just loved what was happening musically at the end of those songs. And so similarly, the Beatles would sometimes, just let the tape run. So some of these songs we played for actually like 6.5 minutes, and there are so many cool magical musical things that happen when you play with people like Christian Thiel, Eric Serene, Marty Ryan, Brian Holly, Eric Moon on keys, Dave Beagle on guitars, that I'm like, I want to keep that in there. I don't want to fade yet because I love that. And I as an album listener growing up, and I love to listen to the long fades on songs and hear what was going on in there. So it was intentional in that. On some of those, like on Light Up, the long fade. And then there's a couple other songs that have a long fade, but I loved How About You kind of has a long fade. I loved what Maya Sharp was playing on the saxophone. And
that's her on the saxophone.
That's Maya, yeah. She's a Nashville
songwriter.
I know
who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorites. She recorded the background vocals for me in Nashville. So Kashona and Shannon LeBrie and Nikki Conley are singing those vocals. And Maya and I are friends, and I said, this song really needs a saxophone. She said, I'll throw a saxophone on there. So
Maya, what don't you do?
She does everything, so I loved the moments toward the end of that where the saxophone and the guitar and the keyboard were all just having this conversation, and the vocals were just singing oohs, and I loved it, and so I just let it run. It's against the radio rules,
No.
Okay, good.
Not here.
Not here.
Come on, we're public radio.
And then on Birmingham, the ending was definitely intentional, and it's part of the idea of the song. It's a travel song for me. The idea is leaving Nashville, going to New Orleans. I'm going to get over this person. I'm heartbroken, but I have set a deadline. I am going to be over this by Birmingham, and by the time I get to New Orleans, everything's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Of course, that didn't happen. But it's a fun idea.
Yeah, well, you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. So it's a traveling song. So the early part of the song is more of a Nashville kind of instrumentation, and Bonnie and Taylor Sims are on that one.
Right. That's
and singing on that one. And then by the time it gets to the end, it switches from like an accordion, mando guitar sound to piano, and then it ends with a Dixieland street marching band.
New Orleans.
Like, okay, I am home. And so I've arrived, and here's this marching band that has welcomed me home. So
nice.
that was sort of an intentional sort of, like we were talking about theater and plays and the beginning, the middle, and the end, and the 3 acts. And do I have 3 acts in this play? And And so for me, that's kind of how I approach that song.
Well, the story has 3 acts. Leaving Birmingham
Right.
is one.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Leaving Nashville.
Is
Right.
one. Getting to Birmingham is number 2.
Right.
And getting to New Orleans is number 3. Is your end.
Exactly.
There's your beginning, middle, end.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was sort of an intentional, not in writing the song really, but in recording it.
Yeah.
So it's fun when you go to record and you can like make it. Oh, what do I want this to sound like?
Congratulations on a sold-out show.
Thank you very much.
Sunday night, album release. The Armory, a great room in Fort Collins.
Yeah.
Have a great
I'm
time.
looking forward to it. Thank
Well,
you.
of course, because the room is going to be full of your fans and your people. Your tribe.
Yeah.
Are going to be right there.
I'm very lucky, and we're very lucky. Marty, Ryan, and I were driving. We had the rehearsal for the show last night. We were driving from Dave Beagle's studio in west of Loveland over Horsetooth Reservoir, and looking. It was dark, and we're looking down over Fort Collins, and I was just like, "Look at that!" And he said, "Aren't we lucky to live here?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, I feel so lucky to be a part of this community and Fort Collins, but northern Colorado, and." It's good peeps.
Yeah.
And I feel lucky to be here.
And you are a part of the community. You're on a mural.
I am on a mural. A very
Fort
young
Collins.
me.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it's reserved. It's not reserved. Lucky you. That
Yes.
it's then.
Yes. Yeah. I'm on the mural.
You're part of it, but you're
by
part of this community, and you have been for a long time.
Well,
and you've seen it grow.
Yeah.
And you grow. I can imagine.
Yeah.
If you think about that. 20, how old were you?
23.
17? 23 when you moved here.
23 when I moved here, yeah.
When you moved here.
17 when I was playing music in bars.
But 17 when you left New Orleans, the comfort of home.
No, 23 when I left New Orleans.
23 when you left New Orleans, the comfort of home,
Yeah.
to come to this new place. Now, luckily, you had the subdudes around you to sort of help you.
Right.
But still, it was a big move.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah.
And now here you are.
My mother was not happy about that.
Of course not.
But then she was happy.
Of course
Yeah,
not.
and here I am, and I feel so lucky. And thank you so much we could do this. We're going to chat for more time. Yeah.
But we won't. Liz Barnez here in the Colorado Sound Studios. Nice hanging with you, Liz.
Good hanging with you.